Welcome to episode 55 of the XrmToolcast. In this episode, Scott's on vacation, so I asked Mike Ochs, or Mike Factorial, as you may know him in the community, to join me as co-host. We interviewed Betim Beja, the creator of the Albanian Early Bound Tool for the XrmToolBox. Spent some time diving into the differences between it and the Early Bound generator, why you would use one versus the other, and places where the code is similar and where the code may differ. We also spent some time talking about Albania, since it's a rather small country that's not well known, and about the Olympics, and plenty of other off-topic topics. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the XrmToolcast. With me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and a guest co-host this week, Michael, halfway. Mike. I'm not calling you Michael. Mike, halfway to his blue card Ox. Yes, there we go. Halfway to your Microsoft blue card. You're even working with Microsoft for the last year, haven't you?
About 7 months. So well, yeah.
And I know Jim Novak beat you to the punch there. Got his blue badge first.
Mm-hmm.
But are they dangling a blue badge there or?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm a vendor right now, and it's going pretty well. So yeah, I'm working with Mark Schweigert, who's been on the show, and He's a good boss.
Cool. I've seen lots of stuff come through in the GitHubs of things going on, and have had a whole lot of time to deal into what. I just feel like you guys have been busy bees in the last 6 months doing stuff. So awesome. So today's episode, I wanted to have every single person that has a early bound generating tool in the toolbox on the show. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a response back from one person. Another person was heavily in the middle of a project. And so we have 1 out of 3, but that's okay. Well, we'll take it, and we'll actually get to dive in a little bit more about our guest. So our guest this week is Betim Beja? I don't know. Pronounce your name so everyone knows. Beja.
Yeah, Betim Beja.
I already forgot. Betim Beja. Betim is the creator of the Albanian Early Bound. He said there's no generator to it because that's copyrighted, apparently, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's trademark, no?
Yeah.
And we technically have 2. We do have 2 authors on here, right? I mean, one of them's you, right?
Yeah, one of them is me. Yes, but I've already spoken about the Early Bound generator before, so I was trying to see what else is out there and see kind of do a comparison of how they are different, how they're the same, and how it all happens. So, Betim, you this is your first XrmToolBox tool, correct?
Yes.
Is it your only XrmToolBox tool?
No, I have another one. It's the Albanian solution packager.
All right.
Which it's really it's a tool only for beginners, no? Because it helps you create the command line to use the solution packager from Microsoft.
Okay. All right. So it's helping to generate those command lines.
Yeah, and it has another functionality that helps you download the solution export the solution from the CRM and import it if that is what you like. But mainly it's to help you to build the command line because it's something that should get in the automated pipeline, no? To package or unpackage your solution. So
cool. So I'll be honest, because I am a creator of my own early bound tool, I haven't had a chance to play around with yours much, but I did play around a little bit before we got started. And I noticed a lot of things that were very similar and some things that I like better, honestly, about the tool. And so we can go into that. So as well as why I create. So let's start with the, actually, let's back up even farther. Albanian, you are from the country of Albania. And now that takes a little bit of kahuntes there to be labeling your stuff after your entire country with the assumption that no one else is going to want. I mean, I guess I could have called mine the United States Early Bound. That would have been kind of a, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I could have done that, but okay. So you've labeled it the Albanian Early Bound creator. So that's your little trademark here.
Like we are a small country, no? It's officially we are like 3 million people.
3 million
in the country.
Okay, cool.
So It's like a neighborhood in US, no? It's in Europe. It's north of Greece in Europe.
North of Greece. All right, north of Greece,
Yes.
and you do have some Olympians in the Olympics currently. You got some weightlifters, I guess. You got fourth place
Yes.
by a kilogram, you said. All right,
Yes.
so very close to getting on the podium there for a country of 3 million people. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's a really good result, actually, because Albania never won an Olympic medal, no? So,
You're pretty close.
yeah, pretty
That was
close.
pretty close. There's another country that won their first this year too. I don't remember who it was, but
Yeah, we have like Albanian nationality, Kosovo, which is an independent country now, at least for US, which has won its third medal, all in judo.
all in judo. All right.
Yeah.
Specialized.
So
Yeah,
be
yeah.
careful who you fight in Kosovo, I guess. They may need some judo to take you out there. Okay, so country of 3 million. So that's only like 3 times the size of the Indianapolis area that I'm in. And Mike, you're in Washington D.C., correct, or outside of Washington D.C.?
Yeah, just outside.
Yeah.
I used to live in the suburbs of Washington D.C. and we moved recently a little further south in Virginia.
All right. And how big is Washington D.C. as far as population? I don't even know.
I don't either.
No idea. Okay. Well, anyway.
I'm not a wealth of knowledge about the area.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. So people can go check that on their own time, I guess. But so
Let me Google it.
the tool. You this is your first tool, and you created it just to, or why did you create it? I guess we'll ask that question.
Yeah, I created this because I really wanted to create a tool for XrmToolBox, really good on the developer tools, let's say, tools that serve developers do their job better. And since early bound generator has to do with code DOM generation, and it was like something I could do easily, and I thought I have to do something new, no? There was the early bound generator, but I couldn't implement my idea because it was a really big project, the early bound generator, no? To change it the way I wanted to implement my idea. So it wasn't just a simple pull request, but it needed some major refactoring, no?
All right. So what was that major idea you wanted to implement then? What was that?
The major idea was to have the possibility to filter the attributes. So you can use only, you can generate only the attributes that you use on your code, no?
Okay.
And
all right.
Let's say that's the main point of creating it, because I wanted to generate really small assemblies, no, without the overhead of generate. And because I worked at the time on a project which was not following really good, let's say, practices. So it had entities with 300, 400 attributes. So it got big really fast, no?
You wanted to limit some of those. Okay, that makes sense. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you created it, I had a major redesign of the UI for the Early Bound, I guess 2-3 years ago, where it used to be all these checkboxes all over one screen. And then I went to what you have now, which is the side little table with the selections of being able to do that in the system settings type of look. Did you start pre that and then also transition to that, or did you start post?
There is a small detail, let's say, on the story, no? Usually I have a lot of experience, but on the .NET world, no? And I started working on Dynamics world 3 years ago. So I guess I didn't even get to see your other UI.
You didn't get to see my monstrosity of a UI? Oh, it was so horrible. Mike, did you ever use it back in the day or see that one?
I have to admit, Daryl, I've never used your early bound generator, but I do have.
That's okay.
I'm an early adopter of early bound. So when I worked for a partner for about 12 years, and this was back in 2006, we built an early bound generator, but it was called the business object generator. And and we used it for the 11 plus years that I was there, and they're probably still using it. So I have some history with it, but I haven't used yours or any of the ones in XrmToolBox yet. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, back in the day, it was very, it was very bad. It was like every single option, I just kept on adding more and more forms to the control, and yeah, it just looked really bad. And yeah, so this whole new UI I had was way nicer. So I've noticed you've adopted very similar look and feel. So I think that's because great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, there couldn't possibly be any bad UIs in XrmToolBox. I mean, I've never seen them before, so.
Nope. Never have a WinForm issue like that either. Yep. Nope. So that was the instigation was, hey, I'm on this project where we have lots and lots of attributes, which is kind of funny. A lot of the tools that we have are generated from really implementations that aren't following the best practices. Let's just say it that way. And so someone's like, this is really painful in this implementation, so I'm going to write a tool to help solve this issue. And in this case, your case, you had entities with 300 plus attributes. Or I guess if we want to use the new way of saying it, you had tables with 300 columns, and you wanted to filter some of them. So that makes sense. So sometimes, I mean, I opened up the tool, I was like, okay, cool. This is huge. This whole grid here. But then it was like, wow, that's a lot of detail to be removing all those different attributes. I was like, I don't have the time to worry about that, I think. But I guess if I was in a situation where I had 5 entities with 300 columns each, I may think about it once or twice. So cool. So that was the main reason getting started. So did you utilize any of the existing code for the other, like, we'll back up and just kind of remind ourselves the framework. I'm assuming you're following the same framework I am, because it looks like you are. You're still using the CRM service util under the code, under the covers. Yep.
I download it. I don't ship it with the tool, no?
I did notice that you automatically download it for the users, which was nice. And then which makes that initial download a little bit faster for users, that's for sure. And then you also don't get tied to that version, right?
Yeah, you don't get tied to the version, but as for the initial load, my tool is really heavy, no? Because I've used some components from a third party to build the UI, and it's like 20 megabytes.
20 megabytes? So, oh, wow. I thought mine was big. No, jeez. All right. So you've
I mean, the UX is pretty clean.
Yeah.
I gave you that. It looks nice.
Yep. The thing is that it solves that specific problem that I needed to solve, no? And that's I have to apologize to the people, because it serves me well, but I don't know how well it serves to the others, no?
So were you using this? I mean, were you using it from the UI when you were doing your project, or were you kind of manipulating the settings manually, or which way have you been using it? As far like, because I imagine it saves it, and I haven't tried it, but I imagine it just saves the settings to a JSON file or something like that, and you buy that and reload it.
It saves the settings partially on the settings file of the tool, and then partially it saves in a strange format that I created for fun.
Okay.
I created
a strange format I created for fun. I think that means that he's not very proud
like,
of it.
If you open it, then it's like an ASCII tree, no? It's it's readable, but you cannot really, unless you copy paste the characters, you cannot write it on your own, no?
Okay. You can't really edit it otherwise.
It's a sort of tree, because you have to specify the relationships, the attributes that you want to generate, no? And it has a little defect for the moment, because it does not generate actions.
Okay. All right.
Only generates the entities
and option
sets.
sets. Yeah. So Mike, that's the only bug there is with it, just that one.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Just
That's not a bug. That's just a missing feature. I wouldn't call that a bug.
So if I if I visually walk through what for our listeners, what actually the options are, there's this coupled relationships, cache metadata, the NuGet feed, some organization options, and then some version information. So let's start at the beginning. Coupled relationships. What does that do?
Yeah, when you choose which relationships you want to generate, if you want to save time, but it's like it's not it's only for the UI, no? If you want to select the relationship both ways, no? On the two entities.
All right, so if you're
So
going through
you only click once and you activate both of the relationships.
Yeah.
So
if you go through
you
and check the entity reference for the entity, it will include the entity you just added then, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But only for the attributes that you need, or without attributes it adds only the relationship because it's coupled.
Okay. Cool.
If you don't use that, then it only selects the relationship that you choose.
Okay.
So it only generates one side of the relationship, no? Doesn't generate
see that,
the
but
other.
it'll select the entity on your behalf, which is kind of cool. Like, so I just selected contacts, and then it goes out and it finds the other relationships and selects those.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is the cache metadata. I have some caching metadata stuff as well as mine, but I don't think it's at all what yours is. Or is it exactly what yours is? Okay. So what's cache metadata?
Entirely different.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of feeling.
Yeah. The thing is that when you use the cache metadata, you are really fast in generating the early bound entities because it uses the metadata from the Xrm tool, the ones that you have requested from the CRM, by choosing. So it gives you a really small subset of the metadata. It doesn't give you all the entities. When you use the tool from download the metadata from the CRM service util, it goes like 600 megabytes of RAM, I think. And when you use the cache metadata, it communicates with some protocol I created with it uses the
CRM service util,
the input,
and it sends it some data directly or something?
It communicates with the command line, let's say, no?
Okay. Do you actually open up like a port and pretend that you're a web server then, and have it communicate to it, or how do you make that love connection? Because I've always kind of wanted to, but never got to that point.
I serialize the characters, no? I communicate with the input and output, the standard input output of the exe of the process that I launch. And then it serializes the metadata from the tool to the CRM service util, the metadata provider. Yep. And so it generates, let's say, the typical number of entities, like 20 entities with 10 to 20 attributes each in like 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I noticed that when I ran, I was like, holy cow, that's done already. What's going on? Mine, I just didn't bother with the time range. I just have it talk to you when it's done. So you click it, go watch a 2-minute YouTube video, and then it'll yell at you when it's done, which is actually the most feedback I get on it usually.
Yeah, you have to synchronize the talking bit, like if you generate actions and entities and option sets, when they are all of three are finished, because that's what you are waiting for, no? Then you talk once. It would be better.
Okay.
Because the three it's finished. So, usually for me, when I did some tests, it finished at the same time, and I had like 3 voices finished for the option set and actions, and what?
Yep.
Didn't Mark Carrington do a contribution recently related to metadata in XrmToolBox? I saw something that he
there was one recently where there's a way to share the metadata between tools, so like you don't have to. You can download it one tool, and then rather than having to re-download it again, you can access the shared cache of the metadata. I think that's what you're talking about. I haven't done any work to grab it because I didn't I do no communication to the CRM service util outside of here's my command line, and I update the app config for the CRM service util. So the team is going through and doing some wizard stuff, I
Weird
guess,
stuff.
and being
Yeah.
able to do it. Even serializing the metadata wasn't that easy. It took me a while to figure out how to even do that because there was a slight issue with that. I don't remember what it was. So yeah, I think I need to review your code base and steal some things.
Probably the actions part, because there's a reason why I omitted that part from my tool, no? Because
yeah, it may have been the actions part.
Yeah, the classes from Microsoft are closed for the actions. Are not public, so you can serialize them.
That may have been what it was.
So why? And I know it's kind of a question I could probably answer myself, but why use the CRM service util if you have to use these types of hacky like metadata workarounds and stuff like that? Why didn't you just roll your own sort of code generator? Is it just that much more work?
Yeah, I have tried that too, but I think it's a little bit more difficult, and then you lose all the work Microsoft has done for the CRM service util, no?
Right.
Because using CRM service util means that when Microsoft updates something or fixes some weird bug, you get that for free, no?
Sure.
Unless it crashes with your changes, but happens.
The funny part is that's the major reason. Two reasons I did that. One was I didn't want to have to worry about connecting to your CRM org or maintaining the connections, right? And so using the CRM service util, I don't have to do that. I just figure out the command line and I give it to that. And then you can also rerun that command line on your build server, and I don't have to have any other weird tools that are out there for that. So that was one reason. The other reason was what the team just said is like, yes, if there's a change, I want to just get that change from Microsoft, right? But unfortunately, I think I've gotten more issues caused by Microsoft than things that they've actually resolved. Because with the change in the custom API acting like an action, but not quite an action, and that it doesn't have a workflow, it generates build errors very frequently for actions. And so if everyone's like, hey, generate all the actions, you'll get build errors right away, which is kind of annoying. And the best way I have of doing that is to have a little setting to add those actions, because API names to the list of actions to omit, and then omitting them. Like that's the best that I've got currently, or using a whitelist, because I can't make up my mind sometimes. So I have blacklists and whitelists, and you can use both, which is weird. But anyway, just kind of weird.
It's when the scales tip from people using more actions or less, or more APIs, right?
Yeah.
And you can switch from whitelist to blacklist, or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, for now, there's so many extra entities in the world that I just always recommend people use whitelisting.
I have a question for you guys, just in general. I mean, do you know, are all the tools using CRM service util at this point?
No.
At least one, no.
I think it's just us two that are actually using it. I got to look at the other ones in the toolbox. There's a web API one that's doing something completely custom and how it's actually like accessing it. And then there's a early bound template generator that's using a T4 template in order to generate the attributes and stuff. So, and I'll be honest, when I first wrote the tool, I mean, I don't know what year it was, 2000 actually, let's see. First post from Ben Hosk was in May 2013. So before 2013 is when I posted that. At least it was, I didn't know how entities really worked, or I didn't know what other magic was going on. I didn't know, is there stuff I can remove, or do I need to have all this stuff? Like, how does it actually work? How does it serialize? I didn't know any of that. So I was like, I better just generate exactly the same thing, only better. So yeah. That's what I did.
Yeah, and I guess we haven't talked about what the benefit is for anybody like that might be listening to this that doesn't know Xrm for that matter, or the Power Platform, like the benefits of using early bound versus other potential techniques.
Mike, you could have asked that question at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I probably should have. You can do some editing, right? You can just swap this around.
Maybe I should. Yeah. So
Is there another way besides early bound? Because
the funny part was Jonas creating the late bound generator. I couldn't. That just killed me. The late bound constants generator, because it's like, if you're going to go through the work of generating it, you might as well make it early bound, because that's 90% of the issue. You don't make it is because it takes time, and you have to keep them, and you don't have to. You need to keep them up to date if you want to access new attributes. So to answer your question, Mike, for the non-developers out there, CRM can have any data in it. Xrm, Dataverse. We'll start. Dataverse can have any data in it. And when you're programming against that, if you don't use the early bound types, you actually are using strings, and you're typing in strings. And if you have a uppercase when it needs to be lowercase, or you type a 5 rather than an S, or make a little mistake, that will be an error. And then you can't catch the error unless you have a unit test running against it, or until you deploy it and test it in your environment. Or if you even get the type wrong. So let's say that it's a string rather than a number, and you didn't know that when you went to go access it, you'll get errors that way too. So there's a whole bunch of errors that you can get, where if you use this early bound method, it looks at what you've generated, and then it writes the code for you that says, no, this is the list of values that are list of attributes for this table, list of columns for this table. These are the types of these columns, and you don't ever have an error with that unless someone actually goes and changes a type, which they can't unless they use the attribute manager to do that, or unless they delete something. And if they delete something, you're even better now, because when you regenerate your classes, you'll get errors everywhere that you actually reference that. I had that this morning. We were using some TypeScript generation, and one guy's like, hey, I'm getting errors all of a sudden when I'm trying to access these values on the form. And the other guy's like, oh yeah, someone deleted that one, so we just need to clean that up. So I mean, if that wasn't there, we would have gotten errors in the actual code base at runtime rather than being compile time, which is, the best errors to get is compile time when you're pushing a little button by yourself, rather than when you've deployed it to a server and there's people that are testing it and don't catch it maybe till you get to prod or whatever all else. So hopefully, did I miss anything there, Mike?
No, but I think you did bring up a good point. So both of these are like server-side code generation tools, and they aren't TypeScript. So there's really not an XrmToolBox. I know there's ways to generate TypeScript types as well, but both of these are server-side, like C# generators, right?
Correct. These are C# ones. There is an entity TS files creator, and then there's a TypeScript helper class utility, but I haven't really played around with those much, and I tried a few of them. I'm like, so the one that I've been using in this project recently is the Xrm definitely typed. That one, and it still has issues of things that I want to change in it, and they wrote it in F#, which I don't know. So I created my own post generator tool that takes what they generate and then just tweaks it to do what I want it to do after the fact, even. But
is it compatible with the Xrm types now, or does it still use its own typing? Yeah.
So so the question is it compatible? Not really, but it's pretty easy to get around that to the case where you don't care, right? There's no reason they can't both live with each other. And that was actually one of the things my post generator does, is to actually make that a super simple change. So now everything that's their namespace is in like a XDT namespace rather than the generic Xrm namespace. So now those namespaces are separate and they don't have any collisions. And I can just, if I do want to take advantage of some type that exists in the one from the global one, I can do that versus the one from Xrm definitely typed. So that's probably going to be, I don't know, we have the Dynamics-Con coming up, and Mike, I saw that you had at least 69 votes the last time I checked for your speaking session. That's one of my sessions, is I think TypeScripting the heck out of your project or something or other. So I was going to go through that project, hopefully, if that gets selected or not. We'll see. My other one's actually winning, so I don't know if they'll give me 2 sessions or not. But anyway, we'll see.
So what if we use? So what you're saying about using both on the client side? What if you just use both on the server side? Like nobody has to win in the you guys can, your tools can live side by side with the other tools, and you can use them interchangeably. So forever, whatever problem you're trying to solve, it sounds like. I mean, honestly, Betim, if somebody's having, or wants to keep things small and they only want to generate a couple of things, maybe that's the tool to use. But since the code is ultimately going to come out the same, then it sounds like both tools kind of serve a purpose, and
Yeah.
there may not,
Yeah.
So.
The one issue, if you wanted to use both in the same project, would be if you're going to use the early bound context that gets generated by the CRM service util.
Yeah, with my tool you can omit that. Let's say
Okay.
you can omit that, and on top of that you can remove the I notify property changed interface, because
What is
that's
that
what
used
it's
for?
useful for.
Do you know
That
what
is
that
used for the context.
It's only used
no?
for the link stuff then, huh?
Yeah. So since you don't need that, I've added this option to remove it if you don't use the context.
So, Mike, there's also the early bound like context thing where you can like put things in the context, and whenever you change it, it notifies itself that it's been changed, and you say save changes, and it just saves whatever it needs to actually save. I've had issues with that in the past. I don't know if they had bugs or if I just was using it wrong or what, but I just said, no, I'm not going to deal with that because it gets too complicated as far as what has changed, what hasn't changed. And so I just stick with the standard CRUD operations of just update, delete, and whatever manually.
Yeah.
So I never actually used that. So I could remove all those add change handlers, and I probably save myself a little bit of A space and B some processing time as well. So, all right, yeah, I like that one. I like that one, team. I like seeing what other people have done. A, to see what a different mind thinks about and how they think, and then B, just to go pick up. Oh, that's a good idea. I could go utilize that, or I could go utilize that. So,
in the end, it's all open source, no? And
yes,
it's open source for a specific reason, to improve, no?
Yep.
You showcase a little bit so everyone can improve, and everyone can even contribute.
Mm-hmm.
Because lately, from my point of view, that's a major issue, no? A lot of people don't contribute when they should. They should,
Yeah.
because you have a bug or you have a problem, at least raise the issue, no? Because we are not perfect, and our tools have bugs. If we don't know, then we can't fix them, or somebody else can fix them, and we can approve the changes.
That's probably one thing that you mentioned about my tools that probably is so true, and that I've got everything packed in one single GitHub project. So you also get the attribute manager, you also get the Visual Studio Solution Accelerator and the early bound generator all together in one project, and that's a lot for someone not holding you through that. But the primary reason is
actually I have created a separate GitHub repository for common stuff between my tools. No.
Okay.
Usually I handle some processes. I added some tool for the asynchronous processes. And that's because it was needed for the NuGet package, since it was deprecated version 2. So you have to do only NuGet version 3 API from NuGet.org. And I created this XrmToolBox shared, which uses some custom implementation, let's say, to do the job posting for the synchronous code, not only for synchronous code. Because you have an asynchronous job, but synchronous code, no? It's not properly async. So I did some implementation with, but it's really complicated, but it's a separate package, no? So it's easy to use, but it's I don't
And
know.
then
I created
use
an
that. How do you access
my
those? Use
on
that form loading, that DLL loading logic, then to access the separate projects. Then.
I've used both ways. No, something I included with IL merge,
Uh-huh.
and something else I do with the loading of separate DLLs. Actually, there's something particular because usually when I do tools, I try to experiment new stuff. So my solution packager tool, Albanian solution packager, actually it's using two languages. You can use it in Italian or in English.
Okay.
And I implemented the satellite assemblies loading, let's say, as part of it to make it use two languages. So actually, every open source project that I have on my GitHub repository has something particular and different technologies. It's not only C# or CRM based. Usually are CRM focused, Dataverse focused, but not always.
So what
Like
other?
I've done some MS build package. So you just reference that package and it automatically generates the code coverage by using report generator. It has some limitations because it's based on OpenCover, if I'm not wrong. But the thing that it does is like you just reference your you create a project, you reference this package, and then you reference your unit test projects, and then it it's all built on MS build. Let's say it's MS build code. It's just an MS build code. It's not C#, nothing DLL. Let's say. And it auto creates the command line, let's say, to generate your reports.
Cool.
So it's
Cool.
something
So
particular.
are most of these requirements that come out of projects that you're on, or are you just kind of experimenting with different technologies?
Yeah, I do like to challenge myself on weekends
Cool.
to experiment with different technologies, but usually they are let's say they start by problems that I face during projects, no?
Okay.
I like to work on fun projects on the weekends, but my kids have other ideas. So.
Yeah, my kids too, but I try to do both to keep everyone happy, no? Including myself.
Including yourself.
You got to time box those things. Yep. So, what would you say is maybe the easiest thing that you did in the tool, and maybe the hardest thing you had to do in the tool, as far as changes you've made to it or improvements you've made to the generation?
The easiest, I don't know. It's generating code. It's nothing is easy. Maybe downloading the CRM service util from the NuGet.
Okay.
Maybe that was the easiest.
I could see that being easy, fairly easy, I guess. Probably copy it for some Stack Overflow somewhere.
Usually I don't copy code from. I like to challenge myself. I copy ideas maybe. So,
Okay.
but I always try to implement it myself so I can come up with something different. Like I did with the shared sources package for NuGets. So I knew that you can use source packages.
Yep.
Let's say to share code and not share assemblies. But I didn't know how you can do that. So I challenged myself to implement, let's say, that thing without reading specifically how you implement reading the code, no? So I came up with something entirely different, which I haven't made the video I promised yet. So
I know Daryl's a big fan of source only NuGet packages. I think I didn't even know about them until I heard you talking about
I think he doesn't even remember that I promised him a video for this particular
I think that, when you
solution.
mentioned that, I was like, wait a minute. I think I remember that in the back of my mind. I think I do remember that now that you had said that you'd be doing that. I don't know when what we were talking on though. I don't know if it was like Gitter or something or what, but yeah, I don't know what that was
I
from.
think it was LinkedIn because
LinkedIn. All right. Well,
I publish my articles for the experiments on
oh,
LinkedIn only
yes.
usually.
Okay.
So
Yep. That's what it was. Yep. Yep. That's always a fun one. And there's things that we as tool generators get to deal with that no one else has the fun of dealing with. Like for me, it was how do I make sure that I don't create duplicate attributes or duplicate enums, things that even out of the box CRM service util doesn't do well or at all. Like it will, if you have an option set or a choice, if you have a choice with a text value of half a foot or half off or something, that's not a valid C# name, but it will just attempt to generate it anyway, and you'll get a build error since it's not valid, since because it starts with a number. So if it's 1/2, the slash is invalid, and then the 1's invalid too. So, Betim, did you run into those fun kind of issues as well, and come up with your own solutions, or did you copy some from the early bound, or what did you, or do you not handle those?
from memory, because it was 2 years ago, I think on that part it was really specific. So in the end, it was only to generate, let's say, valid identifiers of fields. No, so I think I searched a little bit on Stack Overflow and a little bit on. I remember I read some blog post somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a mix of information, let's say, because I don't usually like to just take the code, copy paste, and make it my own, let's say. No, I try to adapt it with what I have in hand, let's say.
So for getting the password, let's talk about that. So Mike, this is kind of the fun part.
Yeah.
If the XrmToolBox doesn't give you your password as far as your password to your environment, but it does store it in a encrypted string, and the code for doing it is in open source toolbox, so you can grab it and undo it to actually get your password out. So I have to do that in order to actually create the command line, because I got to pass in the password into the command line when you're connecting with that, rather than like a user secret token thing. So, Betim, did you copy my logic from that?
Yeah, that part I think I copied your logic,
Okay.
and then we diverged at some point, no?
Okay.
But for my way of working, let's say, it was something not really necessary, no? Because if you use the cache metadata, then you are
then you
not
don't have to worry about it.
actually communicating with the CRM at all from
Now,
the service util. So you don't
you
need the password.
do you ever spit out the command line for them to actually execute as well, or is that in the code generated file, or what? Because that's one of the more painful parts.
Yeah, you can right click on the output window, and you can say copy command. I left it a little bit hidden because it's not something I
Have tested
would like,
much.
let's say. Yeah, the thing is that you can't use the cache metadata without XrmToolBox, no? So there's no point in giving you the command line.
Okay. All right.
I want to force people, let's say, to use that way, no? Because that's the strength of it.
Yeah, totally. I've still been trying to figure out how do I actually pass in an iOrganization service into the CRM service util. Like, I just want to do that. If I could do that, then I wouldn't have to worry about generating that if I needed to, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. So.
Yeah, or at least if it read from the, credential cache somehow, that's already, because you've already got some sort of key or some sort of auth token. It'd be nice if you'd be able to reuse that.
Yeah, but if you use a client secret, that's way easier. They don't have to don't have to do any issues with the passwords and stuff. But yeah, that is the case for that. So this is funny. I had this issue come up in the XrmToolBox early bound generator 2 days ago, and it's been a bug the whole time. I never thought about it. Is to XML escape the comments that get generated. So right now, any comments you type for a field or an attribute or column get stored as text on that attribute when it gets generated. And someone's like, hey, these aren't being XML encoded. And I was like, oh yeah, or XML escaped. I was like, how has this not come up? How has this not been an issue? How's no one complained about this in all this time? But okay, cool. So
Nobody's generating any documentation.
Yeah, I'm escaping them.
Are you? All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I'll have to go check to see what you're doing then and reuse that. So, all right. Well, Betim, so we've talked about your tools. We've talked about a little bit of your country here. You're in the Olympics. It looks like you actually have a bunch of medals in the background. Are you an athlete as well?
An ex-athlete.
Ex-athlete. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I started jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And with 3 weeks of training, I won my first medal.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then I won those and something else that I don't have here. I have in my other house. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did wrestling in high school for 1 year. I tried to play basketball 1 year. I was like, I'll go out for wrestling, and I had no idea what I was doing. And my second person I ever wrestled in a tournament was like second in state, and it was my second wrestling match ever. He'd probably been doing it since he was like in 4th grade, and we're juniors in high school, seniors in high school, and so the only thing I knew was American football. So I just tried to do like an American football tackle on him. I think I scared him for about half a second, and then I think I was pinned 5 seconds later. So, yeah, for being able to pick something up that quick and succeeding in it, dabs to you, because I did not do that well when it came to physical sports like that. So awesome. Well, anything else, the team we want to make sure we cover, or before we move on to the closing part of our show?
I don't know. Maybe people want to come and visit Albania.
Okay. What would they do in Albania? What's the big draw? You got 3 million people. So
Let's
you don't have a whole lot of stuff going
yeah.
on there, but you got some stuff.
3 million people and almost half of them in the capital, which is Tirana. No.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. So is there like specific food or specific like architecture or?
Yeah, it's Mediterranean food. Let's say.
Okay.
It's a small country, but it has different views, let's say, because you have a mountain, or you have the sea, or you have a seaside, which is sandy or rocky seaside. You have in those little kilometers that are the border, you find like all that stuff. But let's say the roads are not so well maintained, so it usually takes a little bit to go from one side to the other. It's not like we have highways like American highways.
No Autobahn going through Albania?
No, but there are some people with Ferraris which get tickets every time.
Okay. Is Italian the national language?
National language is Albanian, which is one of the
I
oldest.
thought there was an Albanian language.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest languages in Europe.
Okay, so it's not from Latin then. It's not a Romance language, or
It's
is it?
something Latin and Indian, I think, from the origins.
Okay.
So it's yeah,
Interesting.
something
How
like
big is Microsoft's presence in Albania? Because are you like the only one? Are you the only Power Platform developer there?
There is a small community, and I'm trying to make them more engaged, let's say.
Nice.
But
Awesome.
it's difficult. It's difficult because usually there is no market in Albania. We do like contractor jobs for other countries. So that's the main point that stops people from engaging, let's say, a little bit in the community. And I think that there is not currently there is not a Microsoft direct presence in Albania. They had an office, but I think they left some time ago. So that's a little bit of a shame, let's say, because there are a lot of professionals, no?
Okay, cool. Well, awesome. Well, I need to make my way to Europe sometime and start visiting all these countries. Even my wife's gone to Europe and France and Romania, and I haven't done any of that stuff, so I need to go do that at some point in time. So anyway, so Betim, we saw your tool. For those that are out there that need to be that have lots and lots of attributes and maybe want to help to filter some of those away and not have as many generated, it sounds like that's a great tool for that, as well as it has a lot of very similar features to what you find in the early bound generator. So, so dabs to you for creating that. If people want to get a hold of you, ask questions, or reach out to you for any sort of help, or want to find out about traveling to Albania, how do they get a hold of you?
They can find me on LinkedIn and on GitHub. I really like interacting with people on GitHub because it means that they're a little bit active, let's say.
Okay.
Creating
so everyone
issues.
Everyone should create issues.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce your name, Daryl Labar.
You're going to start getting issues from recruiters.
You can close issues without resolving them, no?
Right, exactly. Nice.
Cool.
And
awesome.
then
So LinkedIn and
they can
GitHub.
contact me by mail if they like, or they can go to xrm.al for Albania.
Okay.
I'm still building the site. It's coming soon.
Okay. All right.
But it's
all right.
What I'm trying to do, let's say, for the community here in Albania.
Nice. Cool.
Awesome. So we'll be sure to add those to our show notes, and we'll share that out. And this is normally the part of the show where I turn to my guests and ask, that's how our listeners can get hold of our guests. How can they get hold of us? But I never prepped Mike with what to respond to that, so I guess I'll have to do it. If you want to get a hold of the XrmToolcast Toolcast and myself and Scott's on vacation. I don't know if I mentioned that. Like he's just on vacation. It's not like a oh no, Scott's done and he quit. No, he's just on vacation. So
oh dear God, Mike's replacing Scott.
Maybe this is like the trying to find a host for Jeopardy. We'll just keep on throwing one in there and see who sticks. So to get a hold of us at the cast at XrmToolBox.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter as well, or on YouTube, and check us out there as well. So, gentlemen, it's great talking to you. It's great meeting you really for the first time outside of that LinkedIn conversation where you owe me a video about how you did something.
I have to find time to do that.
Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? All right. Well, that's it. See you guys later.
All right. Nice to meet you, Betim.
Bye. Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
This has been the XrmToolcast Toolcast with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Labar. If you have any questions for Jonas or I, or suggestions for future episodes, please send them to cast@XrmToolBox.com or tweet to XrmToolcast.